Hi everyone, today I'm doing a review of Mark Frost's book, The Secret History of Twin Peaks, and I'm reviewing the audio version only because I don't have the hard copy. The reason I don't have the hard copy yet is because I am going to a Mark Frost event next month in which you get a copy of the book. In this review I'm going to try and be non-spoilery, but there may be general references to the form of the book and some of the elements within the book. So the format of the book is basically that it is presented as a collection of documents, reports, letters, etc. that have been collected by someone who is unknown at the start of the book. But this dossier of information is given to an FBI agent, a female FBI agent, who then works her way through the dossier, presenting each document in the order in which she finds it. I was actually really surprised by the direction in which the book has gone in, especially the first part of the book, which concerns historical events and events before the series takes place. I thought some of the early writing in the book was very fascinating, and I thought it was really clever of Mark Frost to be able to thread the story of Twin Peaks into a wider universal experience, if you like. And in this sense, the book definitely wasn't what I expected it to be. For many aspects in this book, I was actually listening and Googling at the same time because I could not believe some of the information that was coming out of the book. It's quite astonishing. These are obviously real-life events that I referred to. I will go no further in saying what they are because that constitutes spoilers, I think. I personally find it quite fascinating, quite dark, quite strange, and I think the elements that have been chosen to be woven into the Twin Peaks storyline, the real-life elements, are so Twin Peaksian in nature that they are extremely apt. They fit so well into the Twin Peaks universe. I would say that this book really needs to be experienced after you've watched the series, because some of the elements in it require you to have experienced the series first in order to be fully shocked and be fully amazed by what you then discover. I think actually this book makes you want to go back and watch the series again because of some of the attention paid to characters who were possibly sidelined and who weren't major characters in the series. They suddenly become major characters in this book. I think that is done in a way that is authentic and which doesn't feel forced and which feels like it's plausible. You don't get a sense of, well, this is ridiculous because none of this was referenced in the show, so it doesn't make sense. You don't get a sense of that. I believe that. I think there is a great deal of believability in what I'm reading about such characters, and I think it fits very well. I guess one criticism I have about the book, especially in the early parts of it, some of the references in the book seem to be quite factual. There's a lot of information to get through. A lot of it doesn't relate to anybody that we know if you've already watched the series. I really like that the history of Twin Peaks itself, as well as the characters of Twin Peaks who we know and love, this is all explored in a very detailed way, and some characters have backstories that are very fascinating and which go far further into the mythology of what we know about Twin Peaks than ever before. In terms of how relevant this book is, if you want to enjoy Twin Peaks, I think that if you're a long-time fan of Twin Peaks, then this should definitely be something that you will want to read. But I also think at the same time that it is impossible to know whether this book means anything in terms of where we go from here with the new series. It's just impossible to know whether this information and these stories about certain characters will be relevant. I do think that if you are a new viewer to season 3, then I'm going to assume that none of what is in the book will actually be necessary to start watching the show with, but that it's more of a padding out of the universe for those who want to know I think the title of the book is very apt in that it is a secret history of things that were always under the surface of the story of Twin Peaks, but which we didn't ever know about until now. In as far as the audiobook performances go, I think it is voiced very well. There are some very familiar voices on the audio. I particularly liked Michael Horse. It's very soulful, his voice is. Obviously, you're reminded of the characters that these actors play in Twin Peaks when they are reading. And they don't necessarily play their characters, although the parts that they are assigned on the audio fit their voices and their delivery perfectly. I particularly liked Robert Knepper. I thought he has a very expressive voice. And in particular, when there were parts when there was a transcribed interview and Knepper played both parts of the transcript, he managed to make that work as if he was playing both people in that interview. And he also reads a very moving and meaningful piece at the end of the audiobook, which is very important, I think, and which I feel he really did justice to with his delivery. I also think there is a lot of verve and vitality in Annie Wersching's voice. She has a very lively, upbeat and pretty voice, which sounds like as clear as a bell, and it's a joy to listen to. When it was announced that we were getting a Twin Peaks book, I did not imagine that it would be like in epistolary form. I mean, I can't say for sure that what we have been given won't be enormously important in season 3, I just don't know. But it didn't feel like that. It just felt like a historical story of Twin Peaks that probably won't need to be referenced again in a huge way. I did like the fact that characters from both the series and the movie were referenced as well. I thought that was important to tie in those two parts of Twin Peaks and to weave that story together. I think this kind of presentation allows us to experience the revealing of the dossier like the agent who is going through the documents. We are experiencing that in the same way that she is, and I think that does bond us to that character a little bit, even though the character of this agent is not hugely explored. I do think that towards the end of the book that she feels like someone that we know quite well. I think there's a high possibility that the character of the agent who appears in this book, who is going through the dossier, will appear in the new season of Twin Peaks. I think that the way that the dossier is revealed is a clear exposition. There are documents in the dossier which allow us to experience more of a personal event and so there is a greater degree of intimacy with these personal documents than there is with some of the documentation from military sources or from FBI sources or elsewhere. So my ultimate thoughts on the audiobook is that it was worth listening to. It's quite a long audiobook. It is over 9 hours long, and it is sometimes a little bit confusing the way that it is read out by the different voice actors. I wanted to make a point as well that I am aware that a lot of people who have already read the book have pointed out inconsistencies, and I wasn't convinced at first that some of the inconsistencies were deliberate. I thought they were just mistakes, and I was happy to accept them because I don't think that it's always necessary to get factual details right when you're telling a fictional story like this. However, there was one point in which I thought this cannot be an accident, in which details appeared in the audiobook only to be changed within a few lines, it seemed. That almost convinces me, but not fully, that there might be a reason why there are inconsistencies in the book. I don't think we can know that until season 3 starts. Anyway, that's it, my quick review of the audiobook, and thank you for watching. You can subscribe to my channel if you would like to keep up to date with updates from the new series of Twin Peaks, rewatches and other videos. And that's it, goodbye!